So you said Vancouver Whitecaps was your team growing up, right? But you probably had other teams in Europe that you looked to as well or supported. Who was those teams in Europe?
Yeah. I mean, my team in like I'd say my favorite team in Europe was definitely the small team En Avant Guingamp.
Yeah.
It's a small French team. It's in a town of 15,000 people, and it's the town where my dad was born and grew up. They're in Ligue 2 right now. They were in Ligue 1 for a few years. Drogba was like kind of kicked off his career there, sort of. It's it's the randomest team. I'm like anytime I tell anyone about it, they might know it, but it's not like a big. It's more of like just a family thing, and through my dad, I'm also a bit of an Arsenal fan because early 2000s they had so many like incredible French players. So my dad would like kind of that's how my dad became an Arsenal fan, and I definitely didn't get to pick that team. But it's still a team that like it's a connection with my father, so that's sort of something important to me.
I know a lot of French people. Anytime I meet a French person, they always support Arsenal in England, for example, because, like you said, they had so many great players: Emmanuel Petit, Vieira, Henri. The list goes on. Arsene Wenger as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I understand why you guys supported Arsenal growing up. Do you remember your first game that you went to as a kid?
Oh yeah. I don't remember like a lot of details about it, but I remember when I must have been 9 or 10 years old. This was before the Vancouver Whitecaps were in MLS. They were in the USL, and my dad. This was at a small stadium, Swangard Stadium in Vancouver. It's like a couple thousand people. And my dad, my friend was going with his dad, and my dad was like, "Oh, why don't we go with them?" So we went. We stood in the general admission section. It was just like it was more of like an event for me. Like the game was one thing, but I just kind of walk around the stadium. Kind of there's activities for kids here and there, like little contests on the side, um, and at the time I didn't really have like the brain to understand the game yet, so I wasn't super fixated on the match, but it was just kind of like that experience of like being in the stadium, and after like I got autographs from the players, and like, as a kid it was the most exciting thing ever. And like I like we go back every couple games. My dad and we'd bike over to the stadium and then just kind of like enjoy these games. And to me, it was like the most exciting thing. Like it was this old, like this was before we had like that logo, like the diamond one. It was very like old school North American style logo, and it was just like I still have my jersey from that time. It's like I have such good memories from Swangard Stadium. Um, so it was definitely like a nice way for me to get in the sport there at a lower level.
Yeah, you mentioned the jersey that you have at the time. What is your all-time favorite jersey, football jersey?
Oh, um, I'd say, I mean, if there's one I could ever get my hands on, it would definitely be a France 98 jersey. I just like, I just always associate that one with like kind of history. And I was just, France won the World Cup before I was born, but I just always associate that as like this important moment. And like I've looked back on it. It's like I've watched the game over against Brazil. For me, like that jersey, I definitely say is my most, the one I want to get my hands on the most. In terms of like which one aesthetically would be my favorite, I'm trying to think. I might still go with that one, although I know I'm missing some. I know after this, I'm going to be thinking I should have
Maybe a
sent
Dutch kit.
this one.
Maybe one of the Dutch kits.
Yeah, I mean, like the Holland '88 one is like that's the holy grail. Yeah, everyone wants to get their hands on that. The value's like insane. They're so hard to find, but I'd have to go with. I mean, yeah, just the Dutch that Dutch kit specifically is incredible to me. In recent years, I found they've been a little flat. I mean, this past Euro they had a good one, but they can kind of go up and down with the Dutch ones. But um, I think the French in general have had a little more luck with what they've been given for kits.
Yeah, yeah. The iconic orange, it's kind of hard to emulate that 88 kit, like you said. So yeah, they always have probably problems trying to please the fans like yourself,
Yeah.
getting the best kits possible. Just quickly, guys, we're watching the video. Drop a like, drop a comment, even a dislike if you don't like the video. It's up to you. It helps with engagement. So I'm not really too fast. Just make sure you subscribe if you're always watching, and make sure to comment down below. Going back to the video, let's talk about your role, taking pictures, photography, and everything like that. So describe a normal match day, or let's start from the beginning. Like, who was the first person who called you and told you, we want a photographer at our game, and we want you to come? You described how you got into it and everything like that, but describe how you got introduced into, pro football or even amateur football.
Mm. So I sort of basically how I started was I created my own, like I co-founded like my own outlet, and that was my access to games. So I've still to this day, that's how I attend most of my games. It's through the outlet that I created. But I've had, like I remember it was midway through my first year, I reached out to, because it's still like, even it's a tricky industry to play around with, because it's based on contact. So you have to reach out a lot of times and say, hey, I'm available here, are you interested, this is what I can do for you. And I think one of the first times I remember was shooting it's the university I actually go to in Vancouver, SFU. I reached out to them and I said, hey, would you be interested in having me in hiring a photographer? I can do this. This is my experience shooting. And since I've gone on to shoot them a couple times, but I remember like I was on vacation, but I was still sending these emails in during the day, and then at night, I'd go out. But it was this kind of like, for me, that was a very exciting time, because I was still getting started, but I wanted it was like, okay, I've done MLS a little bit, but I want to kind of create my own thing on my own. And kind of, it's hard to explain because it's maybe like a lower level, but it was my way of reaching out and being there for someone else, not my own outlet, but having someone want me to be there. So that was sort of the first time I got into that, was shooting just university football. But it's those kinds of experiences that almost mean a lot more to me in a sense.
For more content like this, like, share, and subscribe.